Hello, cookbook friends. This is your host, Kaiti, and today we are going to talk about brand new cookbook releases for the last week of May. Unfortunately, Carrie won't be able to join us for this episode, so you're going to have to deal with me today. We have a whole host of cookbooks coming out, such as BBQ and Grilling, which, to be honest, I really wish that they had come out with this before Memorial Day weekend, because I don't know about you, but this is like my favorite time to do grilling, but I suppose we can use it for 4th of July and all summer long, so definitely check these 3 barbecue and grilling cookbooks out. We also have a whole slew of international cookbooks to come and check out. They're really cool, really fun, and they cover the whole planet. There's so many different kinds of cookbooks out that are coming out this month, and it's really awesome. We also have a lot of specialty and kind of miscellaneous family-oriented cookbooks, so those are really awesome too. So overall, the 4th week of May has a lot of really awesome cookbooks to come and check out. So let's get started with barbecue and grilling cookbooks. We have 3 that are coming out on the 4th week of May. The first one that I'm going to talk about is called Smokin in the Boys' Room, Southern Recipes from the Winningest Woman in Barbecue. It comes out May 25th. It's by Melissa Cookston. It's a bit of a mouthful, but I really love this. Mostly because I was an electrician before I started this podcast with Carrie. And as you could probably imagine, being an electrician, or in the trades as a woman, had a lot of difficulties. There was a lot of challenges, and I really wanted to prove myself. So Melissa Cookston does a fantastic job explaining her biography, what it was like in the barbecue world. Apparently, it's very similar, where she had to kind of prove herself. One of my favorite quotes in this book is, quote, "Generally speaking, most men, judges or cooks, on the circuit are very cordial and nice to me. However, I have run into a few over the years who think my husband Pete needs to stick me back in the house. The looks on their faces make winning that much sweeter." I can really identify with that, and I'm sure a lot of you ladies can identify with that too, especially if you are cooking on a grill. I don't know how many times I've had many people go to my husband when we're having a party or something, and they're always looking to him to start the grill up, and I'm like, I can do it too! So I really love this. Her recipes are really cool, so one of my favorite things is her pantry list, especially if you want to actually make your own barbecue sauces and rubs and stuff. She has a whole list of basically essentials. I really like her cookbook overall. I think it's really helpful, especially if you're kind of new to the grilling scene. Her recipes are also really awesome. Her brand is Memphis Barbecue. And honestly, I'm not really sure what the difference between Memphis Barbecue and other barbecue is. I'd be curious to know. Feel free to share. I have no idea what it is. If you're looking for some really awesome female empowerment barbecue cookbook, this cookbook is called Smokin in the Boys' Room, Southern Recipes from the Winningest Woman in Barbecue by Melissa Cookston. Next up, we have Food by Fire, Grilling and Barbecue with Derek Wolf Over the Fire Cooking. It comes out May 25th, and it's obviously by Derek Wolf. I really love this cookbook because camping season is also around the corner. I don't know how the difference, and I didn't even realize there actually was a difference. There's a indirect cooking and direct cooking. So these 2 separate chapters in this cookbook to kind of talk about each and recipes that go along with each. This is basically learning how to cook with actual fire. And I really appreciate it because when I go camping, sometimes I feel a little useless or I'm really concerned and I'm just, I'm like kind of bringing my grill with me, honestly. And learning how to just cook by the fire and utilizing, Mother Nature and learning how to do that without overpacking. It's really cool. This is also super beginner friendly. He desperately wants cooking with fire to be very approachable for everybody. And he assures us that it's apparently really easy to master. I love the photos in this because It's very reminiscent of camping. It's very wholesome and natural and rustic and fun. You actually feel like you're kind of camping. One of the recipes that sounds super good in this cookbook is a honey espresso glazed pork chop. Oh, I would love to just make this for camping. I feel like that would be really impressive in general, like a camping party or something. So that is Food by Fire, Grilling and Barbecue with Derek Wolf of Over the Fire Cooking by Derek Wolf. Next on our list is, and I love this one. It is Barbecue Revolution, Innovative Barbecue Recipes from an All-Star Pitmaster. This comes out June 15th. It was supposed to come out May 25th. It got pushed. I'm really frustrated because I really want to cook out of this one. It's by Mitch Benjamin. I think he's actually considered kind of like a sauce guy. He is the founder of the Meat Mitch competition barbecue team, and his cookbook it's along the same vein as if you're trying to participate in a barbecue competition, which honestly, I didn't realize that was a thing until recently, and I would love to be just a participant, not one of the cooks. I would love to just eat from one of these places. So Mitch does a great job with sauces, rubs, all the basics, and that's kind of what he covers in his barbecue cookbook. So he has recipes that are really familiar and with like a twist that we would really enjoy. For instance, he has this, he calls it the pig mac, which, if you just add pork to macaroni and cheese, that's already, I am totally sold. He also has things that are like a smoked brisket smash burger. He does, his cookbook is really fun. Like even just how it's all designed, the font is super fun, the colors pop, even just the titles for the table of contents are really fun too. So it's a really awesome cookbook. Also, going through some of these it's not just about the meat. He talks about sides. He talks about making sauces and rubs and dips and, just all the kind of just a wholesome barbecue experience. And I really love it. It's just a really cool cookbook, and I highly recommend it. He also talks about certain things that are not really traditional too. So like smoked salmon, okay, that's a little traditional, but he goes into jackfruit or bone marrow and just a lot of interesting things in here, which when you're talking about jackfruit, that's perfect for people that are vegan or vegetarian or people that want to do more plant-based, because jackfruit does have that meat texture. So I definitely recommend it. Unfortunately, it comes out June 15th. So again, that's Barbecue Revolution, Innovative Barbecue Techniques from an All-Star Pitmaster. It's by Mitch Benjamin. I am looking forward to this one. So now we're going to move on to our international cookbooks. And like I said, we have a whole bunch from all over the world. And it's really exciting because some of these are food history with recipes, and then some are just very, we are giving you a bunch of awesome family recipes that are passed down generation to generation. It's just really cool. The first cookbook that I found is Sephardi. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Cooking the History, Recipes of the Jews of Spain and the Diaspora from the 13th century to today. It's by Helene Jalpanier. This comes out May 25th. It's really interesting. I don't know the difference between Jewish cuisine from around the world because, we're talking about the diaspora, and that means that there's influences from all around the world. Finding the differences flavor-wise and, just even how they might create some of these dishes, or it's just a combination of Spanish food and Jewish food together. It's really fascinating, especially if you're really into food history, because this is a really rich history with Jewish heritage. It's just really cool. So let me just list off some of the table of contents here. We've got breads and snacks. So some of those things that you might see, they have empanaditas with eggplant. Sounds like an empanada, or we have falafel in here. The next chapter is vegetables and eggs. So you'll see something like guesmo, a Swiss chard dish. Interesting. There's only 4 recipes in here. The next chapter is eggplants. Then the explicitly Jewish dishes. The next chapter is meat and fish. And then I really like that they have a Yom Kippur menu. They also talk about soups. They talk about a regimen of health menu. So again, just kind of listing off a different menu. And then desserts and pastries. Hooray! And there's quite a few recipes in here. And then they also talk about recipes that they didn't have 100%. Like, it wasn't just written out for them. They had to do research, and it's all very historical. And they had to kind of put pieces together and kind of guess what these things would be. So I really think that's super interesting. If you're learning and cooking side by side, that's a great way to learn about history. So again, that is Sephardi, Cooking the History, Recipes of the Jews of Spain and the Diaspora from the 13th century of today. Super fascinating. Very cool book. The next book that I want to talk about is Oishii, The History of Sushi. This is by Eric C. Rath. It comes out May 26th. And I'm sure you guys know by now, I love Japanese food. And I love Japanese history. I think it's super fascinating. This particular cookbook has amazing illustrations and recipes in here. There's only 24 recipes, but I like that they've basically given us some historical versions of sushi and kind of how it's modernized over time. It's really fascinating to see that side by side, even if there's not a whole lot of recipes. Sushi has a lot of history. It's got a lot of cultural significance, and because, you know, people all around the world now eat sushi, it has changed over time. So I just think it's really cool. So some of the table of contents here, we have the beginning is what is sushi? The next chapter is searching for the origins of sushi, which I think is fascinating. We have sushi in the medieval age, cookbooks and street food, sushi in the early modern era, and then the next one is sushi in the modern Japan, from snack to delicacy, which is crazy. So I would imagine that it would have started as a delicacy and go to a snack, because I eat sushi as a snack, to be honest. But I'm sure that changes, or that changes now. So the next chapter is then the global spread of sushi, and then 6 is sushi tomorrow. We now have sushi burritos, and we just have the craziest creations for sushi. We meshed multiple cultures together. I would love to see what the history of sushi is. So again, that is Oishii, The History of Sushi. Next up for cookbooks is the Falafel Cookbook. Over 60 fantastic falafel recipes. This comes out on May 25th. It is by Heather Thomas. Now, falafel for me, because I'm gluten-free, is a little interesting. I'm not sure what is and what isn't okay, because some people don't just use garbanzo beans or garbanzo flour, and they use whole wheat flour. So I haven't really dived into making different kinds of falafel. This cookbook talks about using unconventional flavors and different ingredients that aren't chickpeas. That includes things like beetroot, which I think is so cool, and it's probably super pretty. We also have pumpkin or butter bean. I've never heard of a butter bean, but if it's got butter in it, it's probably good. This is really fun, and I had no idea there would be, you could make 60 different kinds of falafel. And that includes things like, I would really love this. It's a spiced falafel and feta burger. They have a falafel Scotch egg recipe. So clever. You've already got the round shape with the egg. And it just, it looks really good. I think I would totally eat this. And it doesn't take that many ingredients. It only takes, to prep it, 30 minutes. And then to cook it, it's about 20 minutes. That's really not that much for a Scotch egg. I really love all of these different recipes because it's not just Middle Eastern. It's got many, many different kinds of recipes that you could use, all mix of cultures, and it's super fun. I also didn't realize that falafel is a good meat substitute. If you're a vegetarian or a vegan, falafel is a great way to especially if you were previously a meat eater, Falafel's a really great way to get the filling. It's great for flavor. There's a lot of cool things you can do with it that, I never would have thought of that. And I just think that's really clever. Definitely check out the Falafel cookbook. It's super cool. It's really bright, vibrant, really fun recipes in here. So again, that's the Falafel cookbook. Over 60 fantastic falafel recipes to feast on. Next up, we have this one's really cool. I'm really excited to share this one. It's a bit heavy, I guess. It's called The Communist Gourmet, The Curious History of Food in the People's Republic of Bulgaria. It is by Albana Shkadrova. It comes out May 30th. It's fascinating. This is mostly a food history book, but it does have recipes in here. It doesn't say how many recipes are in here, but it seems like you have a bit of food history and then you have recipes that kind of go side by side. The recipes are illustrated. The dishes are very typical of the period. And there's a lot of photos in here, like black and white photos that are just really fascinating. So this is like a period of time, 1944 through 1989, post-World War II, Cold War. There's just a lot of interesting stuff that's happening in history, and the people that were affected most by this, or what was even available, that's probably the most fascinating thing. I've never really studied it, and I would really love to. I think it's something that we should all try to kind of keep in mind. So again, that is The Communist Gourmet, The Curious History of Food in the People's Republic of Bulgaria. Next up, we have Sea Salt and Honey. Oh, this one's so good. Celebrating the food of Kardamili in 100 sun-drenched recipes, a new Greek cookbook. This is by Nicholas Sakiris. Comes out May 25th, and I'm really, really excited about it. One thing I have to point out for this cookbook is the photos. They are so fantastic. And there's 125 gorgeous, full color photos of Greece. You really, when you're kind of flipping through this cookbook, it's almost like you're dining at dusk at nighttime. There's a whole feast on a table with a bunch of people. It's got that the coloring. So you've got like sunset happening and you can really tell. And it's a really beautiful cookbook. I really recommend it, just even for the photos. Overall, so the recipes are really cool because you have it's very authentically Greek. So, and I know Greece isn't the only Mediterranean country, but a lot of Mediterranean food, or when you think of Mediterranean diets, it's all very Greek saturated. I really enjoy the fact that they have this cookbook that's exclusively Greek food, and it's authentic Greek cooking. It's all of these recipes were passed down from generation to generation, and it talks about food rituals and tradition, and it's just really beautiful. There are 100 recipes in here, and I'm probably going to get this one just because I actually don't cook as much Greek food as I would really love to. So again, that is Sea Salt and Honey, celebrating the food of Kardamili in 100 sun-drenched recipes, a Greek cookbook coming out May 25th. Keep that in mind. The next cookbook that we have is called Kaiti Chin's Global Family Cookbook, internationally inspired recipes your friends and family will love. It comes out May 25th. This is by Kaiti Chin. So I've never heard of Kaiti Chin before, but she's a professional chef. She's also a TV personality. She's also a mom. And she's trying to give us a lot of recipes from, seriously, all around the world. So she has 170 recipes. Even on the cover, you can see things like pho. You've got tacos on the cover. It even looks like there's okonomiyaki on the cover. You also have hot wings. So really, this is a truly international cookbook. I'm probably going to have to get this to my wallet because there's just so many different recipes in here, and I struggle with trying to get a well-rounded week in. I end up just eating the same things every week. I get really bored of eating. I'm really excited about this. Also, Another thing to be really excited about for this cookbook, a lot of these recipes can be made in 30 minutes or less, and they don't require crazy techniques or crazy equipment. All you need is a knife, a cutting board, and a pan, and hooray, you're done. So some of the recipes in here, let me list them off. We have, one of the chapters is called Simmering Soups and Sassy Salads. So she obviously has a Mediterranean bulgur salad, but she also has a Chinese chicken salad, a sour spicy Thai shrimp sheeters. I've never heard of that before. Maybe it's shooters. That's just kind of a small example of things you might see. So in the meat section, she has a Thai red curry meatball sub. So it looks like she also not only does authentic dishes, she mixes it up. So she has some fusion dishes in here as well. Eat your veggies and love them. She has green bean tempura, harissa maple glazed carrots. Oh, that sounds so good. She has a seafood section that has Vietnamese salt and pepper crab. We also have zucchini noodles with clam sauce. There's just a lot of unique recipes in here. So another thing that's really cool about this cookbook is she's got multicultural celebrations in here with a list of recipes that you can serve for said celebration. So you've got Hanukkah, there's Greek Easter, Cinco de Mayo, and Lunar New Year. I love this. It's super cool. It's a great cookbook overall. And if you love international cooking and you just kind of want to have a little bit of everywhere in your kitchen and to serve up for dinner for your family, it's perfect. So again, that's Kaiti Chin's Global Family Cookbook, internationally inspired recipes your friends and family will love. The next one is another one that I'm probably going to have to buy because there's just so many awesome cookbooks coming out, and it's just, why do they do this? It's called Bavel. We talked about this in our Middle Eastern mini-sode that we did probably about a month ago, but Bavel actually earned the best restaurant of the year by Los Angeles Times, Eater, Los Angeles Magazine, Time Out, and Tasting Table. Believe me when I say this is probably a cookbook that you will want on your shelf. There are 85 amazing, diverse, Middle Eastern exclusive recipes. So some of the recipes in here, for instance, are these Turkish eggs. Oh, this looks it looks simple and delicious and really good for like an awesome breakfast, dinner, snack, everything. We also have a pickled okra, which sounds, initially I wasn't really sure about it, but I'm willing to try anything. The one thing I have to point out, so for instance, this next recipe is called a tomato and plum with sumac vinaigrette. I wouldn't normally say, oh, that sounds great. Like, it'd probably be okay and good. But when I saw the picture in here, I was sold because it's just absolutely beautiful. So the photography in this cookbook is just really amazing. We have these bright, vibrant photos to really showcase how colorful the food is and just how, just the diversity of the food for at least this, Middle Eastern cuisine. So they try to combine as many dishes that are all Middle Eastern, or at least are considered or defined as Middle Eastern. Many of these recipes might not be authentic in a traditional sense. They do try to mix it. I highly recommend this cookbook if you're really into Mediterranean or Middle Eastern cooking, or if you want to dive into it. I definitely do. This restaurant has done substantially well. It has received so many accolades. I can't think of a better cookbook for this. So again, if you're really interested in Middle Eastern cooking, it's called Bavel, Modern Recipes Inspired by the Middle East. It's a cookbook. And again, it comes out May 25th. This is by Ori Minash, Genevieve Jurgis, and Leslie Sutter. It's just amazing. Super cool. So that's the end of our international cookbook list. Now we have specialty and miscellaneous cookbooks. We only have about 4 of these. The first one I want to talk about is the No Fuss Family Cookbook, Simple Recipes for Everyday Life. This is by Ryan Scott. It comes out May 25th. Apparently, he has been featured in Good Morning America and the Today Show, and during these shows, he actually does talk about his family often. So he really just wanted to create a family-oriented cookbook. I know that family-oriented gets tossed around a lot, especially in the cookbook world, because, you know, we all are trying to appeal to our families. Like, we all have families and we all want to feed them, and we want to feed them good, healthy, awesome food, but things that they enjoy. This is truly coming from a family man. He really does want to make the best recipes for his kids and for his wife and everybody. So this is really cool. He's also won 2 Emmy Awards for his show, Food Rush, which I've actually not heard before, but I would really love to watch it now. And it actually aired on Living Well Network, so he has done really well for himself. And if you want to learn more about him and his show, that's where you should go look. One of the recipes in here that I thought was really cool, it's like these Big Mac muffin cups, which I was like, it takes the best of all the worlds for macaroni and cheese. You have the crusty outside and the gooey inside. He also has this recipe called hash with potatoes, herbs, and Worcestershire. So sneaking in a bit of Worcestershire for your kids. But this looks like an amazing breakfast. It's just, this is a really fun cookbook for families, and he's well known for that kind of thing. It's also really nice that in the beginning of every chapter, he has listed the recipes that you will most likely see, or the recipes that are within that chapter. I personally like that because sometimes I get really lost when I'm cooking, especially when I'm cooking for people, and I'm like, oh, I have to make breakfast. So what kind of breakfast foods can I make? And then when you're going through a cookbook, it's like, oh, now I have to flip through every single page. Rather than you can just flip to the first page for breakfast, and it'll list off all the different breakfast recipes that are actually within that chapter. And that's just so helpful. And then sometimes I get confused too, because things like desserts and breakfast sometimes get interchanged a lot. I've seen like donuts on both breakfast and a baked good. Yeah, it's just really helpful overall, especially for family stuff. Sometimes you just don't have time to think. So again, that is the No Fuss Family Cookbook. Simple Recipes for Everyday Life comes out May 25th. The following cookbook I have is really fascinating. It's called Devour NYC, a cookbook. Discover the most delicious, epic, and occasionally outrageous foods of New York City. This is by a couple, Greg Remy and Rebecca West Remy. And I really like that they've taken 50 recipes and then they've accompanied these recipes with awesome photos. So 50 recipes, 50 photos. Super awesome. So the premise of this cookbook is really interesting. There are chapters in this cookbook that are very New York. We have aggressive handhelds, not your average backyard BBQ. We also have tomato, keeping it saucy, tortilla time, fire starters, and treat yourself. So I really like they have a list of all the recipes, but they also have exactly which restaurant that these recipes came from. So these are all recipes that actually do come from chefs or restaurant owners, and it's basically scaled down to make 2 servings so that you can share with a friend, your loved one, or one thing I really like is making a whole bunch of little things to share with my friends at parties. Again, if you're really looking for really interesting foods like that, I highly recommend Devour NYC, a cookbook. Discover the most delicious, epic, and occasionally outrageous foods of New York City. The next cookbook I have is really interesting. It's called Crave Recipes Arranged by Flavor to Suit Your Mood and Appetite. This is by Ed Smith. It comes out May 25th. And this is so weird. So there's over 100 recipes, and it's for every single craving. And so he kind of emphasizes moods and what to eat depending on the mood you're in. I don't know how healthy this is, but we'll see. So for instance, a happy mood, you want something to be like fresh and zippy and zesty, which that makes sense. You want a salad or whatever. And then sad food, which is like plain, creamy, probably, dumbed down. Admittedly, a big bowl of macaroni and cheese is when I crave that kind of stuff when I am sad. So in a way, this is fairly true, but it's just really interesting how he's done this. He's also labeled his recipes by flavor profiles. So he's got like fresh and fragrant for one. He has hot and chili, and then he has another chapter that is tart and sour. So you can kind of figure out exactly which flavor profile you are going to want to eat depending on your mood, if that makes sense. It's interesting. I think if you're really into that kind of thing and you're really into learning about food and possibly how it affects your body and your mood, this is probably a really cool cookbook because it does do a big deep dive on mindfulness, learning how to cook food, and learning about your fluctuation of state of mind. It's just very interesting. It's a very niche cookbook. So this is Crave. Recipes arranged by flavor to suit your mood and appetite. The following cookbook I have, and I have 2 more, it's called The Fresh Harvest Cookbook, 4 seasons, 150 recipes. I love this because I really would love to learn how to eat seasonally. That's just something that I've struggled with because, like I said previously, I end up eating the same things over like week after week after week, and I really should utilize the best produce when they're actually available rather than waiting for instance, my really rock hard avocados in the wintertime to finally get soft. Or, buying berries in wintertime, and then they go bad super quickly. So trying to learn how to actually eat seasonally. And this cookbook really talks about things like canning, fermenting, preserving, so that you can actually get the most out of every season. And this is actually great if you're a farmer or if you're somebody that has a small garden. I know for me, my herbs are kind of going out of control this year. I have so much mint coming and I need to figure out what to do with it so it doesn't go to waste. So learning how to do all those interesting things with this cookbook is cool. So the recipes, they're healthy, which isn't a bad thing. They look really tasty, but not only are they healthy, but they have suggestions on what goes best with these recipes, which is great, so you can actually plan a whole meal rather than, going through one thing at a time and being like, I think spicy baby carrots with toasted seed granola and honey thyme yogurt would go really well with this other recipe that is for breakfast. So it kind of gives you a whole plethora of things that you can put together and how to set it all up. So this is called The Fresh Harvest Cookbook, 4 seasons, 150 recipes. It comes out May 25th. It's by Keith Saracen and Chris Boyd. The last cookbook, and I'm really excited about this because it's so fascinating, is called The Art of Plant-Based Cheese Making. This is the 2nd edition, How to Craft Cultured Non-Dairy Cheese. And it's $50 on Amazon, but I think it might be really worth it if you are going into a more plant-based diet, if you're vegan and you really miss cheese, any of those things. Just fascinating. It's by Karen McCarthy. So things that we see in the actual update are 8 new cheese making recipes working with white and blue molds, nut, kefir, legumes, and other culture preparation. Also rind smoking. It's really trying to help us learn how to make actual different, like white and mold on a plant-based cheese sounds like gross, but I mean, we're eating cheese here, so, it's super fascinating. This is like the vegan cheese making Bible, essentially. There are 150 color photos throughout this cookbook, and they are really, really gorgeous. Even just looking at these, I'm like, this looks like regular cheese. And it shows kind of the process of how to make these plant-based cheeses using actual words, using the photos, using graphs. Just, it's very, very amazing and super helpful. This is the first edition won many, many awards for a good reason. Like, plant-based cheese making is just something that I personally, when I did a vegan cheese board, and I tried some of it, and a lot, for me, it's hard because I'm gluten-free, so a lot of substitutes can be wheat. and obviously nuts. So if you're allergic to nuts, it's really hard to go vegan. So learning the different actual things you can use beyond nuts is really helpful. And learning, how to actually create these different flavors, that's amazing. If you're really into this kind of thing and being really crafty, want to learn how to make your own vegan cheese, and maybe you have to, or you just like, this is super fascinating, I definitely recommend The Art of Plant-Based Cheese Making by Karen McCarthy. Super fascinating. If you ever do it, I really want to hear about it, so make sure to comment about it on our Facebook page. And that is a wrap for the new cookbook releases that come out in the last week of May. Thank you so much for listening to this really long podcast and only me. So make sure to check out our website at cookbookdivas.com to learn about more cookbooks that we might have missed on our podcast, because it happens. We miss things all the time. Things just kind of sneak in and it's like, no! So we also like to share our cookbook content on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest. We try to include some free virtual classes online, so come and join us on Facebook groups. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned every Tuesday for our mini-sode and Friday for our weekly cookbook updates. Have a wonderful week.